more conversations from this event organized by Mumbai First, the way forward for Mumbai. Can Mumbai really become a world-class mega city? Well, joining us now is someone who's spent several decades in the Indian Administrative Services. He's also been a senior advisor to the World Bank and is currently the chairman of the Center for Policy Research. So we have with us Mr. K.C Siva Rama Krishnan, sir. It's great to have you, to be able to speak with you today. Now, since the morning, we've heard this come out through many different presentations and conversations, that the problem really isn't money. The problem really isn't ideas or new concepts like reclamation. The problem really is the will of the people, the will of policymakers to come together and do something for Mumbai. Would you agree?
Yes, I would certainly agree with you that money is not the only problem, technology is not the only problem. I think it is really the mindset and also the responses, either from the public or from the elected political spectrum or from official agencies. So I think it's a question of whether we can have a platform where these different elements of a society and polity can come together. I'm afraid responses not only here in Mumbai but in other cities, responses have been rather fragmented. People are tremendously preoccupied by the excitement and glamour of a particular project. Some of those projects are very useful. I'm not knocking down projects. But a city is also a dynamic entity, it's a breathing entity. Its problems will not be the same throughout the year. From time to time, unknown problems will surface. Known problems, if not attended to, accumulate. So I personally feel it is the attitude towards the city. It is what we think the city ought to be doing and whether it is performing those tasks. That is what is important.
What is Mumbai's biggest malady, you think? Why has it become a bit of a civic failure?
I won't say that. I think it's wrong to look for one single malady. I mean, here is a city of, I don't know how many million people, nearly 20 million if you take the whole metropolitan area. The problem in one particular mohalla in Kolaba will not be the same as the problem somewhere in Bhiwandi or the problem of a new area like Navi Mumbai. So it's not a question of looking for a single melody. There will be multiple melodies. At the same time, there will be multiple opportunities. There is enormous creativity. In some respects, this is a frenetic city. To my opinion, a world-class city today, because of the intensity of trade and commerce and exchange of ideas and capital movement and so many other things, and so many people coming for good or bad reasons. One of the things is that this is a city which is alive. So is Delhi, so is Chennai, so are the other big cities. And I think what we are looking for when we use this word governance, we need to understand, do we have a system which is capable of responding to these dynamics? Or do we say, hey, just a minute, will you please postpone your problem till I scratch my brain and find out a solution, and then you can continue to have your problem. It does not happen that way. So I think speed, dynamics, a multiple variety of issues, and also a multiple variety of opportunities. That in my mind is a world-class city. I'm not particularly bothered saying you got a world-class stadium or you got a world-class theatre. That's all there. Brick and mortar, can be rearranged in different ways. So it's just a question of how people are dealing with it.
What about perhaps a system or a structure of governance that might actually work for the city? You have the BMC, the MMRDA, the Road Development Authority, and then there's MADA, and then there is BEST. There's so many of these different agencies, and at several times they're at loggerheads with each other.
Yes.
Where the city comes to a standstill and
Yes,
suffers.
I think there are, in my experience, especially after the constitutional amendment and going around the various cities, what I find is we have a fascination for technically oriented agencies and also agencies which form in the existing line of command. So they say if it's a road, well, the roads department should do it. If it's a train, the Ministry of Railways should do it. If it is something to do with waterways, the port should do it. But that is not the way a city is organized. A city has multiple tasks. So even if there are many agencies, the question is, how do you bring them together to agree? I mean, today, for example, we had a presentation on what is a concept plan for Bombay over the next several years. There were 4 or 5 concepts. I would expect that it's the responsibility of the MMRDA to somehow translate those ideas into language which is understandable by the people. I would also say that a metropolitan identity is missing in many of our cities. If you happen to be living, let us say, in Parel or Dadar or Bandra, you roughly know this is my locality. I get up in the morning, I catch whatever transport I can get, I go to work downtown. Or I am coming from, Borivali and Kandivali and so on. But what is a metropolitan identity? Can we look upon ourselves? Today, for example, in the NCR, National Capital Region, people broadly know, yes, Ghaziabad is there, Noida is there, Greater Noida is there, Faridabad is there, Gurgaon is there. But it is all one great big urban area. And therefore, it should be possible to move about freely. I don't want a chungi gate, between Ghaziabad and Delhi. Things like this. So I would say today, that is a very, very important requirement. The another very important thing which by and large we are not accepting, and that is across the world, the opportunities for employment in agriculture and the farm sector are limited. It's not possible to absorb the increasing labor force in agriculture. So you cannot forcibly keep the people on their farm. They will vote with their feet. And therefore, migration is inevitable. But many Indian cities and the Indian middle class, they have a great allergy to migration. Though they themselves may be migrants, they say, I've got into the railway compartment, shut the door. Don't allow anyone else to come in. That mentality has to change. So I think we have to accept the multiple agencies problem. Take, for example, MMRDA. If MMRDA is given a certain amount of autonomy,
should it be the overarching authority superseding or overseeing, if not superseding everyone else?
See, whether you use the words overarching or commanding or single land, that's all very well. But that authority has to have a platform so that it says, okay, here is a particular sea link to be constructed. Who will construct that sea link? Is it Maharashtra Roads Department, or is it MMRDA, or is it somebody else? What should be the alignment for that? Now, these are the kinds of decisions which that particular authority should enable a discussion and reconciliation. It should not be kicked up to the state government. Because the state government has all of Maharashtra to worry about.
Look after.
There has to be a certain autonomy. I am talking about functional autonomy. I am not suggesting that Bombay metropolitan area should become a city-state or Chennai should become a city-state. They should remain as part of their respective states, but give them some autonomy, give them some continuity. That is very much more important.
So will this fancy and quite perhaps glorified concept of a CEO for Bombay, does that make sense to you?
Which one?
CEO for the city of Bombay, this slightly fancy concept that we keep hearing of?
You see, I would say, whether you call him a CEO or not, let us take, for instance, the Bombay Municipal Corporation. Under the present system, all the executive powers are vested in the appointed commissioner. The mayor, of course, is there, but the mayor by himself is more a ceremonial person. The standing committee has the powers. If you take the Metropolitan Authority, the Metropolitan Commissioner is again an appointed official. On all important questions, he has to run to the state government for answers. Is it possible for us to think of a system where the elected mayor of Mumbai and the elected mayor of Thane and Navi Mumbai, at least these are three big corporations, and the other small ones, they come together and they say, listen, if you are talking about this expressway or this particular work or that particular work which is of metropolitan significance, let us sit around this table, let's argue, let's agree, disagree, but it's our business to find a solution. We don't want our problem kicked up to the state government and we wait to the state government for giving us an answer. That is what I mean.
Sure.
So the question of a CEO, if the problems are capable of being solved by one super CEO, we would not have these problems.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's about working together at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Okay,
sir.
thanks.
Thank you.